namesake free agent signing last year when he went for the Giants to the Eagles, and to the dismay of many Giant fans where they think that they should have hitched their wagon to Saquon Barkley still. Eagles got him. And all of a sudden, Saquon Barkley has the best year of his career. He's the most important player on that team, and he's probably the best player on the field in any game they play. You got to think now, a little early, of course, first year. You haven't even finished the season yet. But in terms of marquee free agency signings, offensively, and let's separate quarterbacks, because there's too many quarterbacks to choose from. There's Drew Brees, there's Manning, there's too many. Kurt Warner. Outside of that quarterback position, there's a handful of all-time great players that have made marquee free agency signings that have worked. Saquon's probably one of them. I'm thinking here, other than defensive players, we'll get through a list in a second, but this has got to be one of the better free agency signings in the history of the NFL in terms of impact, how good he is, how available he is, how important he is to that team, and how much of a seamless fit it is.
And I think it proves how much of a mess the Giants are, too. You know, I think him in New York, I think you saw it for the last couple of years. He was their whole offense. Now, the Giants went out and got Neighbors, and he turned out to be something. But to the point of Saquon, that team goes as far as Saquon. Jalen Hurts, I think, is going to have a big game in a Super Bowl in order to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. But there's something to be said about Barkley. If he goes off for 150 yards and a couple of touchdowns, and to have that weapon not only out of the backfield, but in the passing game as well, he's good at all facets of the game. I've seen him make blocks downfield for wide receivers. He's one of those guys that does absolutely everything. And I remember it from his time in college. So I think it speaks to how bad of an organization the Giants really are and how he really took the Eagles to the next step, and that was the Super Bowl. Let's rewind to last year. Last year, the problem was Sirianni. They choked it at the end of the year. They lost the playoff game. They bring in Saquon Barkley. They go 14-3.
It wasn't just him. They brought in Bond. They brought in a great rookie class.
Apologies. They got the corner from Georgia as well. But that offense goes as far as Saquon. We usually say that about the quarterback. This is a running back we're saying this about. And for years, we always go, oh, there are those special running backs in the league, the Christian McCaffreys, the Nick Chubbs. Barkley was kind of an afterthought for the last couple of years because of injuries and the team he played on. What a change of scenery this has been for Saquon Barkley.
And it's also a reinvigoration of that position. Him, Josh Jacobs, and Derrick Henry making big-time free agency signings with big-time teams, being good players in an undervalued position. It sort of, I guess, was a shot in the arm for what that position needed because Saquon got paid, and it's proving to be worth every dollar. Now, Derrick Henry was probably a little bit on the cheaper end. Josh Jacobs, I believe, signed for $12 annually, so it's a pretty good contract. But it's timing, but it shows that if you're a good team and you are close enough to winning, a running back is an excellent complementary piece to invest some money in. Now, if you're thinking about some all-time great free agency signings, there's a number out there. Reggie White is probably the most notable. The Packers again. And that was the first free agency signing. That was back in 92, 93. And Reggie White was the first player-decided free agency of the NFL. It was all trades. It was all retirees. Reggie White was the first to shift from Philadelphia to Green Bay. Of course, they won Super Bowls. He won Defensive Player of the Year. Dion was another one. So you got Dion there, or when we went to San Francisco to Dallas, they won a Super Bowl the next year. All these teams won Super Bowls. Charles Woodson, going from Oakland to Green Bay, won a Super Bowl. I believe he won a Defensive Player of the Year. But you got Saquon here. He's probably going to win the Offensive Player of the Year. Mm-hmm. And if they win a Super Bowl, if they go all the way, that's that sort of underlying theme that's what the all-time great signings need.
Pending on what Hurts does in the Super Bowl, it's not going to be Jalen Hurts was the guy to win the Super Bowl. It's going to be Saquon Barkley. The story is going to be about the running back instead of the quarterback, and you rarely see that. I understand if Hurts throws for 3 or 4 touchdowns.
They need Hurts to play well, but Saquon is the fuel of that offense.
Colin, you want to know what they need to do? They need to do what they've done all year, complementary football. And I could respect Jalen Hurts for understanding the guy that he's turned out to be, or rather the quarterback. I apologize, a quarterback he's turned out to be in the NFL. He's not who I thought was going to be a top 5, top 6 quarterback in the league. He's someone who's not going to make mistakes, not going to get in the way of the team being great. And there's a lot of greatness around him. Obviously, the receivers are incredible. Saquon Barkley is the best running back in the league in the offensive line. This is a perfect storm right now. Philly needs to keep playing how they've been playing in order to beat Kansas City. And I've been saying the clock has been ticking for Kansas City. Am I going to bet against Kansas City? Absolutely not. But if there's a team to do it, it's the team that plays complementary football with Hurts and Barkley on the offensive end.
In terms of talent, I don't know when's the last time we saw a team with this much well-rounded talent than in the NFL. They're more well-rounded than what the Niners were last year.
On both sides of the ball, too. I understand, Kyle. I kept talking about the offense. Their defense is really...
They're deep. They got a lot of guys on both lines. They got good coordinators and coaches. They got a mixture of youth and vets. They've stayed relatively healthy. This is a team that is otherworldly talented, and they're more talented than any of the Chiefs teams. Comparably to that Bucs team, was excellent. So there's not that many teams in the past 10 years that are as talented as what this Eagles team is. The problem is they got to run to Kansas City, and the other problem is Jalen Hurts in a big spot. He plays safe, plays complimentary. He lets the game come to him. He won't make a mistake, and he played well in this last Super Bowl. But will we trust Jalen Hurts late third quarter, if it's a 21-17 game, he needs to go down and score a touchdown? Do I trust Jalen Hurts if that running game is getting shut down? Do I trust him to make a couple plays, a little tense up here, make a big spot there? I don't know if I do.
I'll even take it a step further. Let's put him in the situation that Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills were in. Can you go down and get a field goal? I'm not even asking for a touchdown. Can you go down and make the right plays to get 3 to go to overtime? I don't know.
Putting it in this spot,
I don't know,
because they're going to be going right after Saquon.
Right.
So if they shut down that running game and you're going to be relying on Jalen Hurts, who is probably, for a position, maybe the least valuable of comparatively to all the positions in terms of actual talent comparatively. The wide receivers are top of the line. The offensive line, top of the line. The running backs, top of the line. Everything's top of the line except for the quarterback, who's probably in that second tier, maybe that third tier. So you're going to rely on a good player, but you're going to rely on him in a big spot there to win you a game. That's where I'd get nervous if I was Philly.
Right.
You got to play from ahead. You got to play into your game plan. You got to run the ball 30 times. You got to get 250 yards on the ground minimum. And that's your key to victory. But it goes to show the greatest free agency signings of all time. If they win that game, we are going to be talking about Saquon in the same realm of the Charles Woodsons and Shannon Sharp even, and Deion Sanders, Reggie White.
Yep.
Not Reggie White. That might be the best of all time, but still.
Especially if you win hardware.
You gotta win the hardware.
You got it. Like, there have been obviously some great free agent acquisitions throughout the years, but the hardware is what sets them apart. And I'm happy that, we're not putting quarterbacks on this list, because obviously you would think of guys like Kurt Warner, Tom Brady, and Drew Brees. Non-exclusive to quarterback play, it would be hard to argue. And especially with the year Barkley had, he almost broke Dickerson's record. If he would have played the final regular season game of the year, he breaks Dickerson's record. So I think it goes to show you how talented this young man is and how truly he was rotting with a bad organization. Imagine being a Giant fan right now. Oh my God!
I can't.
Your arch rival. Your arch rival gets your best player because your front office is inept.
Well, I can't. I'm okay with them letting him walk completely. You wanted them to sign him? What difference? You think he would have been good on the Giants this year?
I think that a player like Barkley and the money he was asking for, I probably would have given it to him for what he's done for the club. Would have been a mistake maybe 2-3 years down the line, probably, but I feel like you can't.
The optics is worse than the actual move.
I don't think you could let him wear that jersey.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You can't let him, so
we're going to sign him just so he doesn't go to the Eagles?
I'm very territorial when it comes to the teams I root for. That's like going to the arch rival. Wow, bud. That is, they're going to win a Super Bowl on our dime. That's how I'm thinking. They're going to win a Super Bowl on our dime.
My point is, he wouldn't even come close to the season he had, to the success he had if he stayed with the Giants. He is a perfect complement to that offense.